crushed. You killed him with one blow. When I saw you, I believed that something new can come into this world.
You, John Carter.
Here's a good one for you. What do you get when you take a famous science fiction adventure novel and add horrible acting? John Carter. I know what you're thinking, but the commercials say it's the first blockbuster of the year. Yeah, well, there's a reason why Blockbuster went out of business. This movie was such a letdown. John Carter is an adaptation of the classic book John Carter of Mars. The story follows John Carter, played by Taylor Kitsch, as he finds himself on Mars. Once there, he's thrown into the middle of a war and must find a way to get back home. I was expecting an epic tale, up to par with similar book-to-movie films such as Lord of the Rings. But instead, I was left wanting more. A lot more. Don't get me wrong. The movie was beautiful. I fell in love with the planet and all of its inhabitants. The imagery was stunning and available for your 3D pleasures, however, I think it would be just as good without. If I were basing the review off of graphics alone, then I would say that it's definitely worth the price of admission. But thankfully for all of you, I am not. Once you look past the visuals, you start to realize other things, like the storyline, that never seems to be moving at the right speed. This movie either crammed information down your throat way too fast, or it moved too slowly and you kind of forgot the entire plot. I often found myself thinking, why am I watching this? How is this important? Unfortunately, I never figured that out because I became too distracted by the worst aspect of this movie, the acting. The worst offender was by far Taylor Kitsch. His monotone voice and lack of inflection made half of his serious lines literally make me giggle. That's how bad it was. On top of all of that, my biggest problem in this movie was this. John Carter arrives on Mars and meets a beautifully strange group of aliens, and then happens to stumble upon an extremely sexual, half-naked human princess. Not only that, but the two sides of the war that's being fought on Mars, also human. Sure, you can't blame the movie for this since it was based on a book, but that doesn't mean you should pay $12 to go see it. So if you're in the mood for a heart-pumping fantasy adventure, stay home and watch Avatar or Clash of the Titans, because John Carter is not worth the price of admission.
Well, first of all, if we're talking about movies with stunning visuals and absolutely no story, I don't know if Avatar is the right place to go.
Yep.
But I, as you know, completely disagree. Well, mostly disagree. I'm not head over heels in love with the film, but I did really enjoy it. It seemed like one of your biggest complaints was the pacing of the story. And one of the reasons I really liked it was because I felt it gave you the exposition in little chunks so it could take time to develop the whole world of Mars and give you like these big battles and stuff and give you all these huge sequences without having to parse out information throughout all of it.
And I see what you mean by the huge sequences and the battle scenes, but I mean, it was like opening, you learn all this stuff about Mars, like really fast. Before you even meet John Carter, it's like Mars, crazy war, you're learning all these things. And then John Carter, and then he's just kind of like in the West, and then he's like doing this stuff, and he's walking around, and then there's a battle, and then he's walking around, and then he's doing, like it got to the point where I was like, why am I watching you walk around? Like I don't understand why this is important.
Well, I will happily watch Taylor Kitsch walk around anytime.
I'm sorry if I don't go see movies based on how attractive the character
I normally
is. Like,
don't,
I actually
but
want
for
to
Taylor
watch
Kitsch,
a decent movie.
I make an exception.
Like you can Google image him for free. Why would you pay $12 to
Regardless.
look at him?
The other major thing is I actually think he was good in the film. I think he was good because he was it was sort of monotone, but in a way, in the fashion of old Western heroes, which made it more like stoic and made him seem like a gentleman of the West. The other really thing I liked about it is you talked about how the visuals were stunning. And my personal favorite part was there's this one giant battle scene between John Carter and the Tharks, where it's all of the Tharks, which are the alien species, versus John Carter.
And I did really enjoy that scene.
That
I
scene's
thought
beautiful.
That was a really good scene, but he also wasn't talking.
Well-
As soon as he opens his mouth and talks, I'm like, why is this happening? Like, it was so bad. Like, I don't understand how you can watch him, like, completely forget what he looks like and think about what he was saying.
Okay.
Like, no, it's not good.
Okay, well, clearly we disagree on that. So,
Okay.
but I also think part of the reason I love that sequence is Michael Giacchino did the score for the movie, and he's done all the Pixar movies. He did Lost, and a bunch of great TV shows, and the music in that scene. And one of my favorite things about it is how, even though the music is slow and powerful, the scene isn't in slow motion, and that makes it better, which is something a lot of directors could learn to take to heart these days in action movies.
It was a really intense scene.
Yeah.
Like, I remember watching it and being like, all right, this is pretty badass.
And the other thing is, I just felt like I got completely lost in the world of the film, in the sense that there's the line towards the end where John Carter says, "The Tharks did not start this war, but by the gods of ISIS, the Tharks will stop it," which is the nerdiest line ever.
Yeah.
But by the time it was 2 hours in, I was like, yeah, the Tharks are going to stop this
I
war.
wasn't into it.
I was
and
totally
you
into it.
probably won't be into it either. So the John Carter just isn't worth the price of admission. Don't go see it.
Disagree.